So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how you can create patterns in Adobe Illustrator as a fashion designer. So this is where we're going to end up, but we're going to first of all have to learn the principles and the way the pattern tool actually works, and basically how you can create seamless repeated patterns, right, in Adobe Illustrator. So let's get to our artboard first. Okay, so this is the first thing that I'm going to use to explain to you everything that has to do with the pattern tool. So I'm going to turn on my grids for now here. Right, show grids. And I also want to snap to grid. Okay, so basically this is what we have. Yeah, so this is what we want to repeat. And if we look at it, basically we want this to continue. Obviously we want this diamond shape to continue, I want the line to continue. So I'm going to first, normally, usually, right, you would do this just to make sure that that edge is covered. But in the real sense of it, right, whenever you select all the shapes together, you can see this bounding box, right? So what's going to happen is that it's going to repeat the shape to this bounding box. Can you see? And obviously once you do that, you notice that this circle will duplicate on this other side, and that's not what you want. You want a continuous straight line. So basically the concept of the pattern tool is that you have a box, a shape. You can also have a diamond. We'll get to the pattern dialog box soon, but we have this particular area where your item would be that would be repeated in different ways, right? So but want to make sure that everything that you want to repeat, if you want to make sure that your lines are continuous, everything's continuous, everything should touch the edge. Now usually what I would have suggested is to, or I'll say one way you can do this is to create that half. So basically we want to cut out this part. So first of all, draw a rectangle and highlight everything, and then we'll obviously use the shape builder tool. Click on, hold down Alt and delete these parts, and then once we do that, we have a perfectly, everything is touching the edge right there. Okay, so now let's go into this is the first way, right? And I'm going to do a second way right here. So you can just pick which one is faster. So the second way is having these deleted. It's still the same thing, it's just that the circles are in there. So now just to show you how the pattern tool works, we're going to go into the pattern dialog box. So I'm going to click on pattern, make pattern, and this is the pattern dialog box. Okay, right. So now what we can see here is obviously the pattern name. We have the grid, we have the grid by brick by row, brick by column. We have the hex, so you can see this one is a hexagon, so it's not just a square, you can also have an hexagon, and then we have hexagon by row, which is the opposite direction. But we're going to be focusing more on grid because this is the easiest way to learn it. We also have the width and height, so you can actually adjust this to give it, spacing. Do you understand? You can actually manipulate the box right here to give it a spacing, so you don't want it to touch each other, right? But that's different. So I'm just going to Control Z. So as you can see, what is happening here, it's not necessarily touching each other, and we're going to basically fix that even down here as well. So now this particular one that has the black that is darker, which you can actually toggle here with the dim, and you can actually dim it more, and but it's usually better to have it dim so that you can kind of know which one is which one you can adjust. So we're going to kind of fix this now. So whatever is on this side, on this end, is actually what is here, and what we want to do is to get them closer to the white line. So we can just simply drag. Okay, now at this point now you can see that the grid is kind of affecting your movement, so we can turn off the grid now. Can turn off snap to grid and just snap it to the edge of that circle. For this one, what we're going to do is to select with the direct selection tool and drag everything at once. Sorry, select everything, click, hold, and drag. You can hold down shift to make sure that it's straight. Okay, and then obviously do for this one. Right, so we're going to do on this side as well. Okay, now once we're sure that everything is connected, we can see now that it's giving a seamless repeat pattern, right? So if we want to make sure that everything is actually all right, you can see it here. They're all on the same points. They're all on the same point. So yeah, so that's basically the whole concept of the repeat pattern. So basically whatever you have in this dialog box would always repeat touching each other, right? So if we want to now give that space, maybe it's not a connected pattern, right? We want to give that space, we can obviously use the width and height to make that adjustment, right? To kind of you know, basically make adjustment to how large this dialog box is. Copies, so this is the amount of copies that we can see here, which it doesn't really affect anything because whatever shape you draw, however large it is, it would always continue to replicate it, right? So I think that's basically all that we need to kind of focus on here. So I'm just going to call this one 1, and I'm going to click done, and then by the time we create our pattern right here, our shape rather, let's make this one really large so that we can really see. Okay, so we're going to go into the swatches panel basically to select our pattern, which is this last one here. Select the shape and select the pattern. Okay, so now we have that created here. So now I want to basically make adjustment to it. Now it's a pattern, it's a fill shape, right? If you scale it, it's going to be bigger, it's going to follow the scale and everything. But if we want to make this pattern a little bit smaller, we don't want to be too big, so we can always go to transform, and all these would affect everything. So let's just do scale. So we can do 50% and make sure that transform object is ticked off because we don't want to transform the object. If you transform the object, you can see the object is reducing. We want to just transform the pattern. So we're going to click preview. You can see now that it's smaller. So that's basically basics on the pattern, right? So now let's try this this particular one. So I'm just going to show you guys how you can always, if you delete this half circle here, how you can do that. So I'm going to go to object, pattern, make. So basically the difference here is obviously you still do these parts definitely, but the difference is that by the time you take this alt, you hold down alt and copy, it just has to touch the line in the middle and you've made a copy already. You notice that it's here but it's gray. So right, gray isn't what is being repeated, it is the black that is being repeated. So you have to also do on the other side, and that kind of sums up everything. So it's complete. You can see that it's highlighted. You can click it rather. So you do on the other side and generate, and it's still going to give you the same result. As you can see on this line here, which is one we've just done, it's giving you the same exact result. So that's you can do it both ways. Either way works out fine. So now let's look at this one that is more complex, right? And it's a different orientation. And the reason why I did this one is so that we can understand this whole box thing better, right? So now this shape, everything is overlapping, right? It's still the same concept with the circle. We can always use the shape builder tool to kind of delete these parts, and everything would kind of just replicate itself, right? But let's say we want to actually create this part and want it to repeat like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete everything that is exceeding the box. And this is just what we have to work with. Now, the reason why this box is there is because of the spacing between it. Now, we can always use those measurements. If you remember, we opened the dialog box, the width and the height. We can always use it to kind of extend the dialog box. But because we want to be very specific to the number of grids, remember that we're snapping to grids. Let me do that so I can just arrange this for you guys to see. Okay. So as we can see that there are two dialog boxes here. There are two grid boxes here rather. And on this side you have one, and the other one is on this side. Okay, this is way more than what it should be. supposed to be 1. So we have 1 plus 1, that's 2. 1 plus 1, that's 2. And then we have 2, 2, 2. So that basically we want to continue that 2 spacing. That's why we have this bounding box here, just to help us to kind of easily replicate that bounding box in the pattern too. We can always use the width and height to do that, but to be more specific and easier, this works best. So we're going to highlight everything, and we're going to go to object pattern make. Okay, object pattern make, and we have this. Now we know that we want to fill up these spaces around here, and we're going to use the same system in which we used to create these boxes. I'm sure it'll be easy for you guys to do this. All you have to do is just to create a, this is a bounding box here, so you just point here, point here, point here, point here, create a diamond. So what we're going to do now is to click on Alt. So I'm going to click these two first, and I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to drag it down. So because it's on snap to grid, it's going to snap it for us. So now we already have it replicated on this side. Now I want to do for this side. So I'm going to click on this and this, Alt, and do the same thing here as well. So we have that. So now we have it replicated all through. Okay, so we have it repeated now, and everything looks fine. So we can always just click done, and by the time we, apply it to this, we have our repeated pattern. Now, but remember that we had that bounding box, so I think let's remove that. So I'm going to go to pattern, edit pattern. That's how you edit a pattern. So you can just click on it and just click edit pattern, and then we can delete the bounding box. Yeah. And then click on done, and we have our repeated, diagonal pattern. So basically this is just to explain the concept of the pattern tool and how it works. So now we're going to go into our last one, which is to create this undefined shape, this beautiful one here, right? Okay, so now we're going to assume that we want to create this pattern for our fabric. This is what we want to actually send to the printer to create. What we have to do is actually to create the first repeat. So I drew some flowers here that we're going to use. So how I drew these flowers, I just used circles. I arranged circles around this circle, and I used the shape builder tool to join the circles together. So that was what I did to create these, and I just made them different sizes just so that we can have like a more realistic look. So we have these beautiful flowers here. So now what I want to do is to make this into a pattern. Now it doesn't need to follow any order because it's a scattered pattern. So we're just going to click on pattern, click on make, and we have this pattern arranged like this. Now we can always use this at this point now to make adjustments to the spacing. So I'm just going to do 2 by 2. We can see the spacing around it. If it's too much, let's do 1.5. 1.5. We can always lock this so that it changes according to what we want. Let's try 1.8. Okay, so I think this is quite enough of a spacing. So now if we don't want this to be too wide apart, we can always leave it at 1.5, and we can always even take it down to 1 and let everything overlap, right? So once everything is overlapping, we can really do something beautiful with it, right? But let's do something simple for now. So we have our 1.5. So now I want to make sure that these are not too close, because like if you look at it, you can kind of notice that it was repeated. We don't want to make it obvious that it was repeated. So what we're going to do is kind of like rearrange them so that they don't really touch each other, and kind of can always duplicate just to give that yes. So now it's starting to look less arranged. Yes, so this is just basically how you just do kind of arrange the pattern in it. And then yes, we have that fluidity in the pattern. So I think I should just reduce this one a tiny bit. Okay, so and then once we're done with that, we click done, and we have our pattern. So now when you want to now send it to your printer, right, all you do is obviously you have to create your background color. I'm going to click on copy, paste in front, and we want the one under to have a color. So let's do this. Too much. I want something that will be soft. I don't want to use the same blue here. Okay, so I think this is okay. So this is basically our fabric pattern. So all you have to do is just send these. So export as a PDF and send it to your printer. Now let's go over the document setup so that we know how to send this, like how to set this up for our printer. So now before you set up your preferences, file and document setup. So before you start to even create your pattern, you have to like make sure that your settings are correct. So the first one is our unit. So obviously our inch, it has to be in inches because a yard is usually in inches. A yard of fabric is what they would print and repeat. Sometimes your printer would ask for bleed. If they do ask for bleed, you put in the inches that they request here. And then we have the size of the artboard. So I'm just going to click on the artboard tool here so we can see the size of the artboard. So its width is 54 inches and then we have 36 inches. So this is the basic standard size of a yard of fabric. So you want to basically create the yard in Illustrator. So if you're going to be printing on 6 yards for, maybe when you want to print fabrics, you're going to be selling it at 6 yards each. So what you just do is to create an artboard that is as long as 6 yards and then put your pattern on it and the printer would print it out. Okay, so that's basically everything on pattern making. This is a dumbed down version of the class that we had recently. We also talked about this particular image, so I think maybe I should talk about this. So this particular image is also a pattern. We can see that behind here it's purple, this bluish purple, and then we have the flowers on top arranged as a pattern, right? This isn't the full image, so but if you repeat this, you would actually get a repeat pattern of, because as you can see, if you look at it, this particular end, this is the continuation of it on this side, right? This particular end down here, this is the continuation of it on this side. It's, look at this flower, this is the other side of the flower. That's basically this is a pattern. Do you understand? So we can always do stuff like this the same way we did this particular one. You get images, or you can illustrate on your tab, or you draw and trace out in Illustrator, kind of create these shapes and then repeat them, give them different colors, make them beautiful. And this is how basically pattern is made for creating a fabric. So this is everything basically on the basics of pattern drafting. So basically I want you guys to practice so that you can come up with different ideas, and I would really love to see your ideas. Also, this is Ganeta Art School. We're a school of creativity, and I would really encourage you guys to subscribe to our channel, and also subscribe on our website where we have different courses coming up for you as a creative. Yes, so see you guys later. Bye.